Alright, guys, gals, and everything in between. So another week has gone by, which means another shitty episode of Rings of Power aired. So there that is. So, alright, guys, gals, and everything in between, let's do this. So the Rings of Power, episode 5. In terms of episodes, I will say this is, like, better than the ones we've gotten. But that's a really low bar. So, this episode kind of concludes, I guess, even though we're basically halfway through the season, it kind of concludes what I assumed was going to be like the first 3 episodes. So they're finally making their final decisions to leave Numenor, and then there's some sabotage afoot. The king's kid doesn't want them to go, or the king's cousin's kid. The lineage on this makes no sense, but okay. The whatever son of royalty doesn't want him to go, so he decides to commit an act of treason and terrorism to destroy a boat on the way to Numenor. And Isildur, who's not gonna go because his dad's like, no, you fucked up everything deliberately. Isildur, you're a piece of shit. You can earn shit yourself. He saves the kid's life. So in the span of like 5 minutes, they go from you're not getting on these boats to Numenor to fuck it, you're on the boats to Numenor. Alright, we solved that problem. Cool. The elves and all of them are still doing the mithril thing. They then say they lied, they knew about the mithril, and you get a cool slow motion shot of the Balrog. That was fan service because it is from an iconic scene in the Silmarillion, if I'm not mistaken. There was an illustration done about a tale, and that's what they adapted. That was cool. Also, the Harfoots, still savage, creepy fuckers that are like, just leave everyone to die. And then, not Gandalf does some magic powers. That was cool. The special effects in that scene, to the show's credit, were actually really good and better than the other episodes. Also, you had this dumb scene where the bad old guy who used to support Sauron now goes and he's like, oh, we support Sauron. And like half the village leaves, and then the Don Lemon elf and the actually really hot chick choose to stay and fight. And they're getting prepared and they're nervous about it. And then out of nowhere, he's like, I gotta show you something, the kid. And he looks at the sword and he's like, I've seen this before. They randomly jump cut to the side of a wall covered very barely in some ivy and plants. He rips it down and it shows the sword and the skull with Sauron. I'm saying that this is the Witch King of Angmar. That's my guess. And I was like, really? That was the big secret this whole time? Nobody noticed the fucking wall that with the sword. Okay. Because it was not hidden. It was just randomly in like the middle of downtown. By the way, why is this show 99% people standing in a circle in like a courtyard or a downtown, and it's them and somehow everybody happens to be there? There's also this really cringy sword fight scene where Galadriel is training Numenorians on how to properly fight orcs. Forget the fact that Numenorians are supposed to be incredible warriors to begin with. She just is like, oh, we're gonna teach you how to actually fight these people because I'm Galadriel. And the first person to, cut me or whatever, you're gonna get promoted. So the Isildur's friend gets promoted to lieutenant after she matrixes all of them. Who said in the world of Lord of the Rings we needed Matrix-style fight scenes from the early 2000s? I don't know. All I know is that they happen in this show, and I don't get it. And then he does. He's like, oh, you're lieutenant now. And then, yeah, they're getting ready to sail. And then there's some tomfoolery going around between the elves and Durin, where he's like, oh, this table, and then they send the table back. Turns out it was a prank. A lot of this episode was them doing nothing. But when all they're doing with the elf and Elrond story is building up to the Balrog. Also, the mithril light thing needing to save their lives. I hoping that's a metaphor because that's not. They kind of changed the lore on mithril a bit, and I was like, why'd you even need to do that? But they're setting up the Balrog, and it's made it clear. Also, I'm pretty sure that the wizard that's the stranger is seriously, he's either Gandalf or Sauron. But he does the magic, and then he freaks the Harfoot out because he starts freezing their hands, and then it explodes. He randomly learned to talk, where like he wasn't talking before, and then he just can talk now. Basically, it's really confusing, and it's just kind of convoluted. I don't know. I really don't know. But all in all, this episode was again better. The orcs still look great. They set some interesting things up where I'm like, okay, I'm not bored to tears like the other fucking episodes. But is it good? No. It's not good. This is like filler episode of Game of Thrones at best. And that's really the highest praise I've ever given Rings of Power. So take that as you will. But it had a bit more action beats. The production value did look good for the most part with the wargs and all of that. There was like one special effects scene that looked really bad. Aside from that, it worked for me. The Elrond story is so boring, but Durin saves it. Durin and his wife Disa absolutely save that portion. Otherwise, I would be bored shitless with the elves. The king, it's like they're setting up this power dynamic thing. No one cares. Galadriel was cringe in this episode. But again, it was par for the course for Rings of Power, but ever so slightly better. Tolkien would be rolling in his grave. But that was my thoughts on the episode. It's slightly better than the rest. But that's not saying much. That's like saying I vomited for the last 4 weeks. But this week I got diarrhea. Best analogy I can make. So, there that is. Alright, guys, gals, and everything in between. Did you like this more than I did? I doubt it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I got plenty more videos coming to ya. Love you guys. Yeah, I'm embarrassed for Tolkien's family.